Peacemaker, we are told, is the continuation of the DCU.
69.
The first episode of season 2 has premiered. You saw Superman, and of course, I was surprised to learn, according to James Gunn, that now Peacemaker is part of the timeline, the unfolding DC Universe story. And while I didn't see Peacemaker season 1, I watched some of it. I had friends who watched it. It didn't really grab my interest. I did see season 2, episode 1. Before I dive into my thoughts, and the reason I wanted to see it, it continues the story of the DC universe that we saw in Superman. This is that universe and characters from that universe. So, Alan, what did you think of Peacemaker season 2, episode 1?
Yes, I've learned a new way to deal with depression, and that's coke and orgies.
Right. It's the story, of course, of Chris, and we learn that he accidentally killed his brother as a youth. That kind of informed like who he became, is falling out with his father. Last season, he killed his father, but he finds another universe in some, what do they call it?
I don't know. I forgot what they call it, but I guess his father built that thing.
His father built this.
It's sort of like a pocket universe.
Pocket universe. He finds a doorway to another universe where his brother didn't die. His father's not as much of an a-hole, and they're
superheroes.
They're superheroes. They're a trio of superheroes. In this episode, he's dealing with sort of a failed romance. He's very depressed and goes out on a coke and orgy binge. It's shocking. We've got far too much nudity in the scenes that I thought was completely unnecessary. What do you think about that scene, Alan?
What do I think about that scene? I mean, really less nudity in that scene. If you're going to have an orgy, why not have more nudity in it?
I mean, look, we already have the boys. But this is what bugged me about this whole thing. I'm not going to nitpick every story point, and I'm kind of being dropped in the middle, which I caught up very quickly, okay? Because I saw Suicide Squad, also directed by Gunn. So I know some of these characters, okay? So there we go. I just really didn't like it. I'll tell you why. It's very nihilistic. Every character sounds the same. They're all quippy, toilet poo-poo homo butt. That's the humor. It's very juvenile. We've seen it. Gunn was at his best when he did Guardians of the Galaxy. Why? He had guardrails. Kind of like David Lynch. If you saw David Lynch's movies later in his career, I'm not talking about Dune 1984, Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, Elephant Man. Like when David Lynch did Twin Peaks, there were guardrails. It was network television, but he got away with so much. It was so well written. Everything was nuanced under the surface. The later films in Lynch's career were just not as great. There weren't as many guardrails. He could just do whatever he wanted. This is Gunn. He's got the power. He can do whatever he wants. And we find out he's a juvenile 14-year-old, and everyone talks like this. Now, you can have an antagonist like, say, Peacemaker, the lead character. He's not, what's his name? Chris in it?
Yes.
And then Jennifer Holland plays Amelia Harcourt. They're the protagonists, but they do bad things. I want to understand why they're doing bad things. I don't understand why everyone is such an a-hole in this show. is this the way that Gunn like talks to everybody on set, the way they interact and goof on each other? This works for the boys. That's what this show is. When you see Maxwell Lord played by his brother Sean Gunn, and Guy Gardner's in it, played by Nathan Fillion, and of course Hawk Girl is in as well, Isabella Marcet. They're talking about blowjobs and the fact that Peacemaker is bisexual and basically sucks penises. This is the DCU. I would think that he'd show some restraint, think kids might watch this because it directly connects to Superman. But 20 plus minutes in, we see this orgy scene. We see this scene where he's trying out like a casting session with, Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and Maxwell Lord.
To join the Justice Gang, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really dumb, they can hear me. And okay, seen that joke before in other things. I really didn't like it. Now, if I want to see the boys, I'll see the boys. I do believe the boys as well, also foul-mouthed. The characters are more likable because I understand their motivations. And secondly, I understand why they're trying to do what they do. They have they have motivations of why they're doing the bad things they're doing. They're trying to take down the Supes, and the Supes are evil and completely two-faced, and they want to expose them like a Hollywood celebrity. But I really did not like this show. Alan, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think James Gunn has too much power. I think you talk about guardrails. You compare the current DCU with Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a lot of restraint in Guardians of the Galaxy, but you have this James Gunn characters and James Gunn world that works and are likable in Guardians, but not here, because that's what it is. It is all this poopy humor. I'm watching it and I'm like, there's some good ideas in the show, but it gets overwhelmed by this world he created. There's the idea of Chris Peacemaker being so depressed that that there's nothing left for him,
right?
And that he is at the rock bottom in his life, and he feels that the only way to lift himself up is through hedonism, and so the coke and the orgy, and but he realizes that even that is not enough. There's a good thought there. It's like you can turn to all these vices in hopes of being happy, and you're not going to be happy. That's a really good idea and a good message, but you overwhelm it with just dozens of boobs and penises on the screen.
Yeah, and by the way, Alan and I are not prudes. Alan likes boobs.
Boobs, yes. There's some really good looking boobs in that scene. But sometimes it's too much. Sometimes too many boobs is enough. Sometimes
there was a suspicious amount of male full frontal nudity that was not impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Vienna sausages come to mind.
Just saying. No, let me just, and then we get into this new pocket world that I'll call it the multi-universe, whatever. And it's the idea that there's this world out there that is exactly what Chris Peacemaker wants to live in, and he has that opportunity, and that's what the show's going to be is his opportunity to live in his idealistic world within his head. And that's an interesting idea. I think you can build a series around it, but I feel like the crudeness and the crassness is just going to get in the way of all that.
Right. It's just, I'm sure there'll be heart somewhere in the show, but I'm not invested. I don't like anyone. Yeah. They're mean to each other and everything is an insult. It just, after a while, it's like, and look, I'm no prude. I like The Boys. I think the last few seasons of The Boys has gone off the rails. Fine. It's like there are characters I like. they're in a bad show. I
Mhm.
still watch it because I like those characters. I want to know what happens. But this has just left me cold, and I don't know that this really fills me with dread for what's coming in the DC universe. I'm serious. Will there be any authentic moment? Will David Cornsweet, we saw David Cornsweet argue with Gunn about his instincts over the scene where he gives the speech about being human. I thought David Cornsweet, his instincts were better, but Gunn shut him down and said, no, do what I say. And I'm now starting to feel, and look, I've been a Gunn defender. I'm a fan. Look, I met him in the late 90s, knew him all throughout, even right before Guardians came out. Okay. And Guardians, known James, he would come to G4. He'd be a guest on the show. We reviewed Super on DVD Tuesday. I reviewed his film Super. I still love that movie, but I feel like he can't remove himself and go, look, maybe I'm not the guy. My sensibilities aren't there. And I feel like it really comes down to parenting. If Gunn were a parent to a son and wanted to instill some good values in his kid and really explain what real heroism is, I don't know that Peacemaker would have ever been made. I think Superman would be a very different movie. So I'm disappointed.
Let me respond.
While I'm not easily offended, I just don't like this kind of nihilism. It doesn't seem right for what DC should be.
Yeah.
But another universe like The Boys, it works.
Yeah.
He's trying to do his own version of The Boys in a way.
Yeah. And let me respond to your Superman comment. One of the things I mentioned when we were talking about Superman and why I liked Superman was because Superman is placed in this Gunn universe where everyone is exactly as we're describing right now, narcissistic, nihilistic, into themselves. And that's the DC universe at this time. And the only standout characters in that world is Clark and Lois, is Superman and Lois Lane. Mm-hmm. They're the normal ones. Superman is the only person in this world that sees himself as, sees his powers as something that he has to use for those in need. He is a good boy. He is a Boy Scout. He is the good guy. In a world where everyone, good or bad, are in it for themselves. I like that. I like that idea that that's what Superman is, and that's how Superman was represented in the movie. The problem is that feels it's only reserved for Superman. That you're going to only see this kind of goodness and American values in a Superman movie,
right?
When now he's creating an entire world outside of that, from Creature Commandos to Waller to Peacemaker to Clayface. That all that stuff is just going to reflect this world that I don't necessarily buy into or like, and the only point in which I feel like I'm going to like this universe is when the next Superman movie comes out. And so, the Peacemaker, it just feels like the comedy and the locker room talk is just going to be, there'll be some heart in it, but it's just going to be overwhelmed by just this rudeness and crassness.
I just feel the nihilism is tired,
mm-hmm.
and the sensibilities of the show seem dated. It just seems dated and not right for the DCU.
Yeah.